Good afternoon. This is Talib Kareem, based in Washington, D.C., and we are live today for a wonderful conversation with an exciting and enlightening guest, engineer turned patent and intellectual property lawyer, Attorney Aziz Ahsan. He is set to give you a roadmap of his journey from a young engineering student to becoming one of the nation's top intellectual property patent lawyers, perhaps the very most seasoned attorney who is also Muslim in this country, in that area. But before we go into the wonderful history and the advice that he has for both startups as well as large corporations alike in protecting themselves from the privacy standpoint to issues online, we have a very wonderful and special guest, and that is none other than Imam Fahmi Zubair of the Imam Center in Silver Spring for a short talk on the wisdoms from the second surah, second chapter of the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah. And without any further ado, let me bring him up. Assalamu alaikum, Imam Fahmi, how are you doing?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah bi khair. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah.
Sorry about that, a little technical difficulty. And we understand that you are with the Imam Center and you are from Indonesia. First of all, given this pandemic, we always have to start. How was your family there in Indonesia?
Alhamdulillah. Everything is okay. Alhamdulillah. Tamam.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to hear that. Surah Al-Baqarah, we were told by a beautiful scholar from Medina, Imam Sheikh Shankiti. I'm sure you know of Sheikh Shankiti, very famous Sheikh there. He was explaining that Surah Al-Baqarah is very wisely placed as the second surah, second chapter in the Quran, because it really serves as the tafsir for Surah Al-Fatiha, the beginning surah. Can you share with us some of the wisdoms that are contained in the very opening of that Surah Al-Baqarah, which is, I understand, the longest of all chapters in the Quran and took the very longest to be revealed? Maybe you can give us an understanding about how long it took to be revealed and what are some of the lessons that you think we should take away, especially as lawyers, from this beautiful and powerful chapter.
Ya, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yaumiddin. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, today we have the great day that we get together in understanding about Surah Al-Baqarah in this event. Inshallah, Surah Al-Baqarah is very, very famous, and this is the longest surah in the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent on Surah Al-Baqarah, and the goal of Surah Al-Baqarah is i'dadul mu'minina lihamli amanatid din. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a profile, behavior, how to having a role, a believer, as a role model to commit the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rules. Hamli amanati deen. This is amana that we have to have faith in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like unseen, something unseen, al-ghaib. And then sharia, regulation, sharia. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sharia. Wal khilafa fil ard. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the human being to be a khalifa. Khalifa, it means that to manage this world, to lead this world. There is mountain, there is ocean. So human being, yeah, this is a leader, yeah, to manage everything, to make something, something stabilization, yes, stable. So this is about Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has created Surah Al-Baqarah. Yeah, this is full of stories. Yeah, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala gave a lot of stories from Bani Israel, the follower Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Nabiullah Musa alayhi salam. Why? Because that the reason the follower of the Prophet Musa alayhi salam has something behavior, that complicated behavior in dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yeah, has commanded this way, so they ask more and more. Yeah, then, yeah, this is about the picture. Then in Surah Al-Baqarah, Da'watun Nas Kafa ila i'tinakil Islam, that call, they are calling to Muslim or to non-Muslim, yeah, unbeliever, yeah, ila i'tinakil Islam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creator. Yeah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yeah, appreciate at-thana'u 'ala al-mu'minin billah, appreciate the believer because of his believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa malaikati wa kutubi wa rasuli, in the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. Amana Rasul bima unzila ila min rabbihi wal mu'minun kullun amana billahi wa malaikati, and so on. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yeah, then ta'zimu iman al-ibad bil ghaib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciate to believers that has a faith in unseen thing, bil ghaib. My brothers and sisters, rahimakumullah, this is very, very, very dynamics. Yeah, dynamics issues in Surah Al-Baqarah. Then Surah Al-Baqarah is one of protection from unseen. Just like Ayat Kursi. Yeah, Ayat Kursi. Surah Al-Baqarah. Yeah, indeed, there is greatest ayah Kursi. Allah la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. Yeah, it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to protect all believer with ayat kursi, that, yeah, this is Allah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim wants to protect all believer from unseen, yeah, just like jinn. So this is Surah Al-Baqarah, amazing. Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Yeah, and a lot of issues in Surah Al-Baqarah, just like Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam. Yeah, he has dialogue with the Namrud when Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam to explain about the God. And Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam, yeah, give the picture how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the beginning when build the Kaaba. Right? So this is about Islam is the religion that continue, still continue to follow the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Yeah, coming from Kaaba. So this is about the Qiblat. When the Qiblat, the first in the beginning, to face Masjid al-Aqsa, then Allah Subhanahu wa Taala command all believer, mu'min, to change the Qibla to, yeah, Masjid al-Haram. Yeah, just like in Surah. Uh, سيقول السفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها قل لله المشرق والمغرب يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. So تحويل القبلة, it means, yeah, changing this qibla from the Masjid al-Aqsa, yeah, to Masjid al-Haram. So this is big issue. Yeah. So this is just like something Bani Israel, Jewish at the time want to make mockery. Oh, if you change your new qibla, it means your past good deed and your past deeds, so this rejected. It means you have mistake. No, yeah, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala want to order common. This is a new regulation. This is new order. So you have to obey. This is
Mashallah.
about Islam. Yeah,
Mashallah. What a
mashallah.
beautiful
Right.
recitation and a beautiful explanation of so much knowledge that is contained in that one surah, that one chapter, which is over how many pages is in Surah Al-Baqarah? Do you know?
Surah Baqarah, when we talk about Jews, so yeah, two Jews
Two
and a
juices,
half. Yes,
two and a half
two Jews.
juices.
Uh,
The longest, again, section, the longest chapter of the
right,
Quran. And clearly, we
right.
don't have enough time to explain it all tonight. But we wanted to, again, just say how grateful we are for you taking some of your time. We are lawyers and we're not scholars by any means, but we hopefully all are students of knowledge and students of scholars like yourself. And so we always appreciate you dropping uh, gems, dropping diamonds upon us that we can then use to incorporate into our lives and perhaps even our practices of law. We appreciate you, Imam
Sorry,
Zubair.
three Jews, not two Jews. Yeah, three Jews and something.
Three
Yeah,
Jews.
yeah.
Wow.
It's about 50 pages.
All right. Excellent.
Right.
Excellent. We
Yeah.
really
Mm,
appreciate you taking
yeah.
the time
Allah
to be
barik fik,
with us.
inshallah.
And we look forward to you joining us again. Can we get you back, Imam Zubair?
Allah barik fik, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Inshallah. Assalamu
Assalamualaikum
alaikum.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wow. Again, I just feel enlightened by that conversation. And Attorney Aziz Ahsan, you are based, where are you based these days?
Assalamu alaikum. I am based in Fishkill, New York. It's we call it upstate New York. We are about 100 miles or so north of Manhattan.
Excellent. I mean, does that like recitation and explanation, does it not inspire you? I feel very inspired just listening to
And
the.
again, Imam did a very good job in a very short period of time explaining the essence of Surah Baqarah. And mashallah, it's wonderful that we have Muslim attorneys and Muslim imams working together in harmony because, again, as we all know, Islam is the religion of peace along with law and order. And of course, it's a religion so that, that we can use in our daily lives. So, mashallah, and again, Imam did an excellent job of explaining the essence of the Surah Baqarah.
Indeed, I absolutely agree. And in fact, it's interesting that you say that because I've heard recently how some lawyers have made a mistake about Islamic law. And they have even gone to the point of making the mistake of comparing Islamic law with, any other law and saying that, law is infallible because it's man-made, as opposed to understanding that Islamic law is actually something that's special. Because unlike the man-made law, such as the legal canons of England or the United States jurisprudence, the rulings that come out of the Supreme Court or the laws that are created by the legislatures around the country, be they the federal legislator or state and local legislator, that the law of the Quran is made from the Almighty Himself.
That's correct.
Now, of course, you can have interpretations of that law that might be flawed, right? I'm sure there's a bunch of those, but the law itself is infallible. There is no mistake at all. Is that not your understanding, Attorney Hassan?
Well, again, I have actually written an article on Islamic jurisprudence in my younger days, so I am pretty familiar with the Islamic legal system, and mashallah, it got published several places. Again, when we talk about Quranic law or Islamic law, we need to keep in mind that what is in the Quran is fixed. I mean, so those uh, the inheritance or the rights of a woman or rights of orphans, they cannot be disputed. So those issues are already set. So there's no misinterpretation. Now, when we start going into business transactions or into, using modern day technology that did not exist, then we can look at Quran and see what is, what we can extract from it, from that time. That again is subject to interpretation. But again, we want to make it very clear that the Islamic law as presented in the Quran that applies to human beings or business interaction or any of those things that are clearly specified, or the rights of the woman, as I mentioned, or orphans, those cannot be disputed.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you wrote some very weighty jurisdictional documents and treaties, or maybe legal articles, as you said.
Correct.
I would really like to know a little bit more about your fascinating career. If I was going to open up a book, and the book would be called The Making of Aziz Ahsan. Tell me, if I was going to look at the chapters between your college days, so from what college you attended, on through to today, and in an abbreviated version of that, how would that read? If you could give me that abbreviated version.
Thank you, brother. I mean, I came to America at the age of 18 from Pakistan. And the first year that I was involved as a freshman, I became the religious chairman of MSA. And then the following year, I became the president of MSA. So I kept my Islamic portion and I studied engineering. And and I continued with my Islamic teaching,
And
myself.
so, which engineering school did you go to? I'm
I
also an
attended the
engineer.
University of Minnesota.
Okay,
So I did my bachelor's in aerospace engineering or aeronautical engineering. Then I did a master's in mechanical engineering, and then I got an MBA, and then I went to law school. And so I, mashallah, did a lot of things very fast. I worked as an engineer. So my MBA and my law degree is from the evening program or night program. I worked as an engineer during the day and went to business school in the evening. And business school was from the University of Minnesota School of Business, and my law degree is from William Mitchell College of Law. And I worked as an engineer during the day. So, mashallah, say I've been very blessed with good teachers, good mentors, and good parents, of course, and that guided me, gave me the solid foundation that I could build up on. And
where were you working as an engineer? I also worked, and between my years in school, I worked for the Ford Motor Company's plant in Livonia, making transmissions for a car that actually drive now, the F-150. What were you doing as an engineer at that time?
I worked when I graduated with a bachelor's degree. I was working on my master's in mechanical engineering. Then I got hired by a company called Emerson Electric, which has a division called Rosemount. So I was their marketing engineer for them, and we were making because I had an aerospace background. I was making, or my division was making equipment for satellites, for the space shuttle, for the SR-71, the Blackbird, and the Trident missile, and the submarines, and the M1 Abrams tank. So because these technologies that are very highly classified go into those kind of defense-related work, and so I was doing the airflow analysis, space analysis, weightlessness, deep pressure, and all that kind of good stuff. So I worked that as an engineer, and then I worked for a company called MTS, which was basically material testing system. So we were testing all sort of equipment. So for example, surgical thread that people use in surgery, they were breaking during surgery, because when you're tugging or pulling on a surgical string or a thread, it breaks. So you were testing on that. Or for example, doing a life cycle on an automobile. So for example, if a F-150 truck needed to go through a quick analysis, this company would either make the equipment or provide the equipment for testing of that. So we would accelerate the failure rate, so then we can see which part is going to fail. So that was part of the engineering work that I did. Then I worked for Honeywell in their law department, and then I worked for a law firm also. Then again, I came to Union Carbide, which became Dow Chemical. Then I ended up at IBM before I went to Manhattan. And then I have my own law firm for the last 20 plus years, mashallah.
Wow, what
So
an amazing
short
career.
story.
And I really appreciate that abbreviated version of the making of Aziz Ahsan. And indeed, as you were talking about your experience as an engineer, I was getting a little jealous because I started off as an astronautical engineering major. I would have loved to have worked on the SR-71, for example, because as a Air Force Academy cadet, when I started in school, we used to have one of those planes parked right on our campus yard. So I grew up, at least while I was at the academy, really appreciating that piece of equipment. And it's amazing that you got a chance to work on that.
So brother, were you at Colorado Springs?
Yes, absolutely.
By the way, I got the first prize in graduate competition at the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs few years ago.
Really? No, hold on. What year? I might have been there at the same time. What year was that?
That was, let me look it up. It was 1978.
Oh, okay. It was a few years before.
A few years ago. I have the plaque up here, so I have to look it up.
Well, that's great. Well, tell me, now that you are working on issues of intellectual property, patents, copyrights, and trademarks, trade secrets, what is the hottest thing that, or the most worrying aspect of this law that keeps many CEOs of both large companies and small companies alike up at night? What are the things that people are most dealing with, especially when we deal with online transactions?
This is, I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to work on internet law way back in the early 90s with IBM, because we were introducing these computers to do all sort of transactions. And IBM, as a big company, wanted to protect their domain. So similarly, right now, between the Apple and Amazon and Netflix and Google and Facebook, they have all these patents. And the reason is they don't know where the technology is going to go. So the leaders or the managers are always worrying about, if there's a startup that could, wipe up their, eat out their lunch. So for example, Yahoo was pretty advanced in their technology, but they did not legally protect their patents. And then Google and other people came in, and now Yahoo is no longer in business. So similarly, these companies are always worried about the next startup that's going to take over. So these are, and because I have my own law firm, mashallah, I work with these startups, and some of these technologies are amazing. Some of the way they're acquiring or combining technology, or what's the word, or leapfrogging stuff, the technology. So nobody can really say this is the way it's going to go, because we had regular cell phones, for example. Then we went to the flip phones, and now we have the smartphones. And I don't know what in the next 5 years what kind of phones we're going to be having. But again, the chips are getting faster, smaller, and so the whole technology, the whole world. And again, 30 years ago, America was a dominant figure. Now you have got many countries coming into this field and just going into a niche or small area of expertise and where they can flourish. Again, looking at the social media, we have giants, but so does other developing countries or advanced countries.
So tell me, an issue that seems to come up a lot when you have your own online business is something a lot of people take for granted, but is something that is very much important for anybody who wants to have their own online company to think about, and that is the issue of terms of services, terms of service, and as well as privacy statements. Now, tell me, I've heard that in fact, in terms of having a privacy statement, that a platform, for example, like Facebook, might not even allow you to advertise if you don't have a term of services listed in your platform's website. And in fact, in terms of services, I've been also told that a lot of companies get into trouble because they are essentially copying terms of services of their competitors or other companies almost completely without having a lawyer look it over and delineate between what terms of services are applicable for that company versus the other company. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, again, many of my clients, have me review their terms of services, agreements, and things like that, which I have to put online. The reason is, it's like a business plan, or it's like, so if the customer or consumer has an issue, or the HR has an issue, or anybody has a concern, they can go to the terms of service and say, okay, this is how we're going to protect your privacy. These are the safeguards that we have, and this is what's expected of you. So if you don't accept those terms and conditions, then of course you can't enter. So it's just like having a door with a set of instructions like no shirt, no shoe, no service. Similarly, the terms of service is similar in nature, where the platform that is offering certain service or certain product or some expertise, they want to make sure that everybody knows that if you enter my domain, we're going to do, you have a risk of, you have a what's the word, expectation of privacy, but at the same time we may use it for this, and then you have to check boxes. And again, some of it is boilerplate, but sometimes it's customized to make sure that if you are in a certain business, that you meet, you use, you satisfy your consumer base or your customers. So again, copying and pasting is fine because it's mostly boilerplate, but you need to customize it for your specific business, and then you have to abide by that, because that's what these big entities, if you're going to go into their platform, like Etsy, for example, and if you go into their platform, they want to make sure that you comply with their, it is kind of it is it doesn't conflict with their terms of service or privacy issue, something. So so they have to be compatible, and again, it is always reviewed. Most entities review those terms and condition before they let you on their platform or partner with your platform.
Now, tell me a little bit about, again, what would you advise an entrepreneur, a business owner who is moving his or her business online from, let's say, a actual physical presence? What are some of the things that you recommend to clients to be included in terms of services? Are you essentially spelling out what a customer can expect from each one of your products? So, for example, if you have an online yoga studio, are you basically stating what each class is? So, for example, you have classes from Monday through Sunday. Do you have to talk about the details of every class? Like, oh, the Pilates class, you'll expect, A through Z. The yoga class, you'll expect this. Or is there some abbreviation of that?
It's a good question, but again, when we do the terms of service, whether you look at Google, Facebook, I mean, they all have it. There's a legal, there actually practically on the very bottom, there's a legal statement, and you click on it, and it will take you to the terms of service or privacy issue or whatever the entity is offering. I mean, so, but it has to be generic and general in nature. It can't be very specific, because then you are kind of, you're pigeonholing yourself into a very small, narrow area. So you can't go to your you can't really broaden your offering. So therefore, the terms of service agreements that I put together mostly, and I recommend to everybody, is to keep it as generic as possible so that it applies in many situations. So instead of calling a yoga class, just say we're going to be offering services uh, dealing with yoga information or something like that, or exercise. And then again, and then but again, it's mostly that, again, the issue is one of the big issues that comes out is privacy, because yoga studios have, for example, cameras. So then again, part of the policy is that we're going to have cameras, but those cameras are going to be only used if there's a court order or government issue, but we will not disseminate the information that is being captured by the camera in a yoga studio. Because of the other issue is, for example, there's something happens in a yoga class, then they have some proof. Okay, this is what happened. He said this and she said this. But again, here's an audio video of that event or situation, and then they can use it. So again, so even if they're allowed to have a certain, there's an expectation of privacy, but you can't put a camera in a, let's say, bathroom or something like that. You can put it outside in the hallway so that you can see who's going in and out. So this way, but again, you can't put it in a bathroom stall, or you can't do it inside a rest, where there's an expectation of privacy. So you can't do it there.
So let's ask about another issue that a lot of folks are dealing with, and that is the issue of cease and desist letters. Can you tell me a little bit about, first of all, I guess in order to understand the issue of cease and desist letters, you have to understand a little bit about copyright law and what a cease and desist letter basically spells out as being done by the person who is receiving that letter, and what are the rights of the person who is writing that letter. Can you spell that out for us, please?
Again, in this day and age where people think copy and paste works, and that's when they get into trouble. Or, for example, they'll copy somebody else's idea and present it as their, and so again, in the copyright issue, this issue comes all over the place, but mostly in the copyright area, especially with internet law, you're allowed to have standard boilerplate terminology that you can use, but you need to customize it, so you differentiate it. And the reason we have cease and desist letter is because some of my clients actually we have found out that their competitors are just copying and pasting. So I had a client out of California. There is another entity, a competitor that was coming up out of Minnesota, and what they did was they went to the bigger entity out of California, and they took their website and took a lot of images, and they selected the ones that were important to them, and then they uploaded on their website. And because their competitor, a few months later, somebody came across it and said, wait a minute, this looks very similar or familiar. So they sent both the images to me, and I compared them, and then I sent a cease and desist letter to that particular website, to that entity, saying, politely telling them, this is the evidence. So if you don't update or remove these images from your website and redo your website, we will pursue legal action. And within a very short period of time, they apologized, because the company had given the task to a web developer, and the web developer was a computer, some entity. And so they just felt that they could do a quick and dirty job getting the website up and running. So they picked up images from here, there, and wherever they could find it, including the competitors. And so it happens. But again, when you get a cease and desist letter, the first thing is go to an attorney and comply with whatever it is, because if you litigate it, it becomes very, very expensive. And so again, in most of my cases, when I've sent a cease and desist letter, I usually send it with evidence, so that whoever is the attorney at the other side will counsel their client. Listen, better, respect what is being said or told to you. And again, I do the same thing. If I had a situation where somebody had a song which was very similar, and basically said, maybe I had heard it up there. They weren't very clear about it, but I said, what, rephrase it, get a change the lyrics, change this so that that you won't be in violation. And again, this is again copyright. It's in the area of copyright, so it does happen from time to time. And again, the penalties are very expensive because when you go to file a lawsuit, the damages are very substantial. So the best thing is to finish it in the very beginning rather than trying to escalate it. And unless you know for a fact that you independently created that music or that website or that terminology or whatever it is, then of course we will defend you. But
when you say expensive, how much money are you talking about? Somebody could win against a person who loses a copyright infringement case. How much money are we talking about?
I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars because each violation is a separate violation. So, for example, each page is a separate violation. So if they've got 10 pages on their website, it is like, 10 times the award because each is a separate violation. So it adds up. So again, some of it is statutory law, but then it depends on judges or jury decision of what they will award you. So, but again, regardless of what, each page is a violation. It's like if you copy a book and you have 10 pages that are violating the copyright, then it is 10 independent pages times whatever the award is. So that's how it works, especially in the copyright area.
So if you're talking about a $10,000 recovery and there are 10 pages, so you're talking about $100,000 essentially.
Easily.
Wow. So it definitely pays to have an attorney like yourself who is there to either advise the person who needs to write a cease and desist letter or the person who gets a cease and desist letter, right?
Exactly right. And again, as I said, that people like myself with experience, we will send a cease and desist letter with a clear explanation of why we feel legally that we are in the right place. Because I don't want my client to be spending money on me, paying me for my services, and then not get the results that they're looking for. So I will not take a case which I don't think has strength. So again, another attorney will basically advise their client that, here is the evidence. Either you refute it, or you accept it, or refute it. And most of the time, they will just say, listen. Again, another issue that comes up is trademark. I have got clients that basically, I have a client actually, this particular entity imports wines from Italy, and it's a private label, and it's a very popular wine in our region, and she distributes it throughout America. Another company out of Boston started, basically took the label, modified it a little bit, and started importing it from Italy. We had to send a cease and desist letter to them, and they complied. So it's not only in copyright area, but also in other business, because people don't realize that in the wine industry, a certain name has certain meaning, whether it's coming from a certain region of Italy or Europe, or France or America. And again, it has value. So when somebody goes to a liquor store to buy a liquor, even though it's an Islamic, I'm an attorney, Muslim attorney, but again, my clients come to me with all these issues, so I have to do the best job I can. So
it's interesting that you say that. It's very interesting you say that, because I actually was confronted with a similar issue that I think also called into question my own beliefs as a Muslim. Someone who believes very firmly in what the Quran has stated, that we as Muslims should live our lives by, our code, if you will, of conduct. And in this case, the client, in my opinion, is absolutely dead wrong. So the client is a large business that is essentially misclassifying his workers as independent contractors. And this is something, everybody does, right? You basically want to pay the people as low as possible without having the responsibilities and the hassle. And it's a very real issue of the process of hiring them as employees. But nevertheless, I believe the client has made a mistake, and the people that they're going against are they're poor people, basically struggling to make some money, and they may have entered into the agreement initially not knowing what the law is, and said it was okay to be classified as an independent contractor, but in fact they were employees, at least in my opinion. I mean, I'm a small fry on this legal team, but in these cases where you that the client is doing something that is morally not right, as a Muslim, how do you square that with yourself? And do you give them some advice about perhaps not doing what they are doing?
In most of my practice, I mean, the issue again, I do filing of patents, trademark, copyright, both in the US and internationally. So I've got clients of all religious backgrounds, all different, many nationalities. So to me, as a Muslim, I'm like a Muslim ambassador. So again, if they come to me, they have either read my resume someplace, word of mouth, recommendation, whatever. So they have some confidence in me. And so I feel that if they're coming to me, I should do the best job I can. And as a Muslim, they can go to their friend and say, we had a Muslim lawyer and we had good success, as opposed to we went to a Jewish lawyer who was very successful in accomplishing, this task for us. So again, I have many Jewish law firms, Jewish clients, and again, yes, I know they have very strong feelings for their faith and Israel, but again, as an attorney, I have, if they come in with their business, I work with them. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years, I've been in this business for over 20 years now, that those Jewish lawyers, because they have interacted with a Muslim, they have a better understanding of Muslim point of view on certain Islamic issues or Muslim issues vis-a-vis Israel or Jewish. And sometimes they have some, misinformation. So they can easily call me up, or another Muslim attorney or a Muslim person saying, we have heard this. What is the truth? And similarly, if I feel something that I need to run something by, I can call up my Jewish clients and say, can you explain it better? What does this holiday mean? Or, if we can't, whatever the issue is. So I think, so for me, I'm a much more moderate Muslim, and I reach out to many entities. I mean, I'm also involved in interfaith issues in my area, in my region, and mashallah, we have done pretty well, reaching out to the non-Muslim community, and we have a very good relationship. So it's part of being a Muslim is to reach out. And again, as a business person, I mean, I'm an attorney, but at the same time, I'm a businessman. I'm running a small business. I have to make sure that whoever my client or customers are, that they are, I do the best job I can to meet their needs or whatever they're asking for to the best of my abilities. And again, they will go and refer to, not as an attorney, but as a Muslim attorney who helped them achieve this particular success.
Well, I certainly appreciate that perspective, and I know that is a ongoing issue that everyone has to be accountable for, and again, we are all going to be accountable to the Almighty on our appointed day of judgment, which none of us can escape. So we ask that the Almighty constantly allows us to always be in the process of reflection and hopefully improvement as we make these judgment calls. With that in mind, let me ask you this. In terms of technology, as you know, It has been used to bring about amazing changes in our life, from being able to have conversations like this, all across the country, and be able to see each other, to being able to find lawyers like Abe. In fact, we placed a link for people who want to schedule an appointment with you in the comment box. And so if you want to actually schedule an appointment to get your terms of services reviewed, or to go over a idea about a patent or a trademark or copyright, you have a link that is in the comments to go ahead and schedule that with the attorney, and he can get with you immediately. We generally like to get these consultations scheduled within 48 to 72 hours, and actually get the answers to your problem that you need. And if you have any questions, feel free to put those questions in the comment, and we will hopefully get those answered tonight. But let me ask you, again, going back to the issue of technology. Technology can be used for a lot of good things. And right now we have some serious problems that we're confronting. One is the problem of the COVID pandemic itself, which is really having a devastating impact on families from across the country, as well as the issue of violence, which seems to, both deaths. I think the amount of deaths that have occurred from COVID have spiked above 700,000, I was reading. But at the same time, violent deaths have also been increasing. What do you think, as a intellectual property and technology lawyer, what do you think can be done to use the technology that we have to address some of these underlying issues that are causing violence, or at least lead to ways of reducing violence?
It's an interesting question. What COVID has done basically is stressed globally, it has stressed the whole globe. So it's not just something happening in America, but again, how Americans are addressing it. Unfortunately, we have got lots of misinformation, and even the technology companies, they became aware of it, but they were not addressing it. Again, as you know, that yesterday, Facebook, Instagrams, WhatsApp, and all of them had a major problem, and again, delete Facebook was trending yesterday, and again, Facebook had to go onto Twitter to announce that they were having some problems, etc. So this is the stress that people are facing, not only in America but globally. And so when people are under stress and there's no end in sight, even though we have the vaccine, but people just are reluctant, or the misinformation. And again, the technology companies haven't made an effort to sort of stop this misinformation. And again, it started with the previous administration. They thought it was fun and game, and unfortunately, we are going to be paid the price for the next several years, because the word fake news started about 5 years ago, and again, it is now part of our language. And again, the media hasn't really addressed it to say, what is fake news. And again, if there's a break, for example, CNN, it's constantly, everything is breaking news, even though it is just a regular news. But again, they just need attention, and that is also contributing to this whole stress. And then, of course, stress leads to violence. So again, technology is there to help you, but at the same time, technology needs to be properly channeled. And again, it needs to be there should be some safeguards. Again, for Twitter, they have a term of service. They have made it very clear, and they stick by it, whether it is the president of the United States or individual. But if you break the terms of service, then you'll be off the platform. And it's just like, you go to any particular store, they have a certain rules and regulation, you comply with it. So technology has gone faster than how the people who know how to manage it have been able to put the safeguards in place.
And with that in mind, if you were going to come up with your own app, if you will, to reduce violence. What might that be? What types of technologies do you think are out there that might even be used? You mentioned Facebook and Twitter. These social media apps are out there policing people in the internet space. I mean, do you think that there should be a way in which these types of apps can be used to prevent some of the things that are happening, or maybe even the telephone companies? I was thinking just recently here in Washington D.C. we had a tragic death where one of our firefighters was killed in a hail of about 50 bullets, and I was thinking in my mind, like, clearly somebody was on their phones, before or after these shootings, and apparently there were shootings happening by multiple people. But what might we do with this type of technology to prevent or at least alert authorities about possible issues of violence?
Um, Again, we are seeing this kind of trend. It's at its infancy, but you will see more of it. People are using their smartphones for good purposes. One of the things that are trending is many people are taking their smartphones to police stations, to government buildings, post office, etc., which are public places, and basically exercising their First Amendment right to record and to talk about it. Or for example, Black Lives Matter is using it, or people. I mean, it's not only Black Lives Matter, but again, people. Both whites and non-whites are using it. So when there's an incident, they will pull out their smartphone and start recording it. And so, what is so that's the best use of the technology now, or a good use of the technology, because people in the 10 years ago they had the phone, but nobody took it out. But now what technology is doing is allowing you to record and videotape the evidence, so that you have a police version of what happened, or the police camera, which may have been deleted, or they may not have turned it on, but you have a bystander with a camera, and then they can use that particular video to say, yeah, this is what actually happened, and the law enforcement made a mistake here, or they were being using unnecessary force, or if their understanding or was different. Again, there's an issue of there's a word Karen being used in America right now, and I hate to use it, but there are videos of people who are misbehaving, and it could be anybody, it could be a man or a woman, but again, if you're misbehaving in a public environment or a public place, people are videotaping it. So again, that de-escalate, and then people are going to start realizing that wherever they're being videotaped, and so in few years we will see some de-escalation of issues, as and that would also help the society, because even though for example, a mall camera may not take all the image, may not have the sound, may only have a grainy image, but a bystander's smartphone will not only take the image, but also the sound that goes with it, and they're in a close proximity, which can be used for both, by both parties. So again, the issue of de-escalation will start to happen when people realize that somebody is using a smartphone, taking the thing. So that again, with the firefighter, if there was evidence, if it was grainy, then they may be able to get away with it. But if it is if there's a clear bystander who took the video of what happened, then that could be used. And again, we have many such cases now that the media is even using or acquiring and paying for video images to broadcast certain news, to sort of say what happened. So again, technology is here, but again, how we use it, how we train it. And again, Black Lives Matter use this technology to record incidents that were happening, which again, we knew that driving while black was there, or walking like black was there. We had a gut feeling, but we had no evidence. So now we have thousands of such videos being taken, and those are now real evidence. And the rest of the world, or rest of America, is seeing that this why Black Lives Matter is important, or why a white person is treated differently by a police officer versus a non-white or a Hispanic or a police or a black person. And again, once the major or the people see it, that will of course change the society. So I think we are trending in the right direction with the use of our smartphones. And again, this is technology being used appropriately.
Amazing ideas and examples, and we pray that some of our policymakers might be listening to this conversation and take back some of these ideas. It's really been an amazing conversation. I can't believe that the hour has passed by so fast. Before we leave, let me get from you a quick outro, if you will. If you were going to give yourself some advice, or give some advice to the 17-year-old Aziz, the MSA leader who was going to be going to engineering school and then law school ultimately, what advice might you give to yourself or to young people out there today, right now, who are starting off their careers, thinking about either becoming a technology entrepreneur or an engineer or a lawyer even?
Again, I never knew that I was going to become an attorney. I knew I was going to be an engineer. I was an aerospace engineering engineer, and I wanted to work on missiles and satellites and space shuttle and that kind of stuff. But I was discriminated against, and so that's why I decided to go to law school, because I went to an attorney to file a discrimination lawsuit, and only to find out that it was so expensive. And so I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to go to law school, understand the law, and use it. And now I'm in a better position. I mean, I'm as an engineer, I would have been fine also, but as an attorney, I'm very happy. But giving myself, at age 17, I always one thing, like several things were good in my life. One was that I had very good parents. I had a good, solid foundation. I was lucky enough to go to good schools, and my parents encouraged me to set up a solid foundation. So in high school, I did my homework, and I enjoyed sports. I did all of the fun activities that teenagers do. So I was lucky enough to do all of those things. And then in college, I studied hard. I took challenging courses, and again, I did the homework. I enjoyed my professors. I learned from them. So again, it's like a sponge, and I'm still learning. I'm still in some aspects. I'm a student. I do read a lot. I do talk a lot, of course, but I have to sort of come up to speed on many different technologies, different issues as my clients are presenting it. So my advice to myself at age 17 would be to build you have a solid foundation, build on the solid foundation, and work hard, because hard work eventually will pay you off. Because again, as I said in the past, things that have happened to me 20, 30, 40 years ago come in handy randomly. So if you have a good solid foundation, you will build up on it. So, and that's what my parents gave me, and that's what they encouraged me, and I would recommend the same thing to anybody else.
Well, we missed the conversation about your thoughts on what business opportunities there are in Afghanistan. I think that's actually perhaps a conversation that we need to even dedicate a whole hour on, because a lot of people, of course, have been concerned about the images that they've seen on television, but there are lots of opportunities I've heard that are coming out of that country, even right now. And I think that we really need to focus on it, but our time is gone tonight. But would you be open to coming back, and perhaps we might even get another speaker to engage in a dialogue with you on this issue of the opportunities coming out of that part of the world?
I would actually expand it to Muslim countries, because I've been to Malaysia and Indonesia, and of course Emirat and Bahrain and Pakistan, and there are a lot of opportunities for American attorneys and business people to partner with or to work with entities in Muslim countries. And as Muslim lawyers, always encouraging, participating. So yes, I'll be more than happy to work with you and your team.
Well, we may have to actually have a series on that. In fact, because I know that every country has their unique, kind of customs and unique aspects of business. And so I think it would be a good idea to focus on each separately, and then really go from there to the next country. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation, Attorney Aziz Ahsan. You're extremely fascinating, and I appreciate your perspectives, and I appreciate you being one of our world-class lawyers working with Abe. And again, if you want to go and schedule an appointment with Attorney Aziz Ahsan, I've included the link for you to do so in the comments, and we are very happy to make sure that you get the counsel that you need. And perhaps if this is giving you a thought about another aspect of the law, be it writing a will. I was just actually, while we were conversing, seeing that there was a post about somebody who was looking to get their wills done. And of course, I'm sure that Imam Fahmi Zubair would encourage using the hadith about making sure that you don't sleep 3 nights without getting a will. But you can also do that through Abe. We can both write the will for you or look over a will that you had written by an online platform or by someone else. So these are some of the things that we are excited about. We are just getting ready to celebrate a milestone of 2 years being in business. We've hit over 100 customers, and we're looking forward to some really great things that are coming down the pipeline. Attorney Aziz Ahsan, we're really happy to have you join us, and we look forward to again continuing this conversation, because I think you got a lot of podcasts in you, and I'm looking forward to getting those all out, if you don't mind.
Thank you, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. This has been an amazing conversation with Attorney Aziz Ahsan. This is Abe Legal, also home to Abe Yoga. If you all are out there who and looking for an opportunity to get your workouts on, especially those of us who are working in the technology space and are always in front of our computers, definitely got to break out that monotony. And we have some wonderful yoga instructors out there who are available. Check out our platform, Abe Yoga, and I can also try and put that into this link as well, so you'll have an opportunity to check it out. And we look forward to our next conversation coming up soon. If you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to reach out to me. That's Talib, Talib, at abe.legal, or just click on the link here at Abe, www.abe.legal. And we look forward to having some great conversations with you as we go forward. Until that time, have a wonderful night. Take care.